Hey guys, Scott here, and today I want to talk about Lucky Break. It's a perk that I and many other people were kind of scared of and still kind of am. However, they nerfed it. It used to be 90 seconds on the PTB, and now it's 45 seconds. So I think that was a very good change because being able to use this perk 3-4 times in a match would be insanely, ridiculously strong. And I think the nerf they did was really good because I played a lot with Lucky Break for the past couple of days to get a very good opinion on it. And to use Lucky Break more than 2 times, you basically need like a gimmick. You need like a syringe or something like that. And you can do that. Like I actually, in a couple of games, I brought in Botany Knowledge and a syringe. As soon as I got hit, I would get out of line of sight, pop the syringe, keep running. And then within, 12 seconds, I'd have Lucky Break back. I'd be full health. I would have lost the killer. And then I could have used it like 1 or 2 more times in the match. That is very annoying. So hope that you don't go against that because that shit is just the worst to deal with. But other than that, I would say Lucky Break was successful about half the times I was hit. And that might sound like, oh, that doesn't sound like a very good perk. But the thing is, though, you don't ever use all of your perks with 100% efficiency ever. Like, you can only use Decisive Strike a single time per match, but it's still huge. You can only use Unbreakable 1 time, but it's huge when you actually use it. Just like if you get a successful Lucky Break, for you specifically, it's huge because the thing is, if you have like Dead Hard or something like that to get an extra chance, you might argue, well, Dead Hard you can use multiple times during a match and it'll give you the same thing because you can get to a pallet and it'll get you out of it, going down for free. The thing is, though, it gets you further along in the chase that you're currently in. What Lucky Break does is it makes you just completely out of a chase entirely. Because if a killer is chasing you, you will eventually go down. That's just how the game is designed. That's what Bloodlust basically is. That's when, the dwindling resources. You're designed to eventually go down. You're not supposed to be able to lead, the killer on a chase forever. So you will eventually go down. And Dead Hard might extend that chase, but Lucky Break can make you completely immune to the chase entirely. You just won't even be chased after you get hit that one time. So the pronounced effect for the 1 or 2 times you get to use it, I think, is stronger than Dead Hard because a killer just completely losing you is stronger than just him having to, chase you for a bit longer. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized why I actually am so worried about this perk. And first of all, I'm glad people are not using it very much. It's great. But the reason I'm worried about this is because Lucky Break benefits it benefits survivors who you do not want it to benefit. Now, what I mean by that is, a good player with Lucky Break, a good survivor with Lucky Break, you're not going to get that much value out of it because a good player, their job basically is to run the killer. They want to be chased the entire time. They don't want to lose the killer. So for them to reflect their skill as much as possible in the match, they want the killer to know where they are at all times. That's why Object of Obsession is such a strong perk. And, these good survivors are not scared of being found. They want to be chased the entire match. That's their whole goal. So Lucky Break for them doesn't really do that much. However, and this is where it becomes mildly problematic, it's more of the survivors that are maybe not as good at looping. They want to try hiding more, or they're just not as confident in their looping abilities. The way a killer wins against good players is looking for the single weak link. If there's a weak link, you can capitalize off of that, make huge plays around that, set up dead zones, and you can dwindle the amount of skill that the survivors are able to use by hooking people in dead zones, and you just need that one weak link for that to actually start happening. However, Lucky Break tends to benefit people that are not as good at looping, or they just prefer hiding. I'm not saying like they're bad players. Sometimes hiding is actually very annoyingly effective. But it benefits the people that prefer hiding and not getting chased. And the reason that's a huge problem is typically those players are not as strong at looping, so you want to be chasing them the whole time. You want to be in a chase with those players. But Lucky Break allows them to get out of a chase. So you trying to capitalize on a weak link now no longer works because if you hit them, they don't have to do anything. The perk just activates and they keep running. If you're like in an indoor map too, you're just not going to find them again until, later. So that's why I think the perk worries me so much. It minimizes the effect of a survivor being a weak link and not being as good at, getting chased as some other people possibly in the match. Because if they can just simply get out of the chase entirely and not have to worry about that, that is a huge net loss. And to the killer, it almost makes that survivor a god tier survivor because you're not able to down them. You can't capitalize on them being the weak link anymore. So if you have, 2 good players that don't have Lucky Break or anything like that, and 2 weaker players that do have Lucky Break, the killer might have an equal problem now downing both players, because the 2 weaker players that get hit, the killer just might lose them, because if there's any line of sight blockage, it doesn't really take any effort on part of the actual survivor. They just run out of line of sight, and the killer just has to hope that they can find them. They have Iron Will on top of that too, or even Calm Spirit. It is deceptively hard to find a survivor that gets out of line of sight. One of the things I was actually doing is having Sprint Burst. It's almost like a free getaway card. You have Sprint Burst, you intentionally stay near the killer, and right as the killer hits you, you activate your Sprint Burst, you get injured, you go torpedoing 5,000 miles away, and if there's any form of line of sight blockage on the map, you will almost always get away from the killer, provided you have, Iron Will or something like that. And I did that a lot, and it was really fun, but then I realized I wasn't getting chased, and I was actually starting to get bored, because when I would do that, the killer would just lose me, and then I'm like, well, the whole fun point of the game is getting chased, so I ended up not liking it, but that is, my main concern with the perk. It allows players to not be frequently as a weak link. I guess that's the overall summation of it. So I would say it's not overpowered anymore. I think the 90 seconds was ridiculous, but 45 seconds, I think it's a strong perk, but it's not overpowered or anything like that. And it is very good for certain players. And I hope that I don't see it that much. But overall, I would say it is weaker than I thought it would be, because they nerfed it, which is good. But the times that it is used, it is very strong. And I don't think it's a fair critique of it to say that, well, you don't get use out of it every game. Because, yeah, like I said earlier, you don't get use out of any perk every game. You can bring Unbreakable 50 games in a row and never use it a single time, but it's still a very good perk. So I don't think that's a very good argument there. But other than that, Lucky Break, very good perk, tends to benefit players that might not... It benefits the players that might be the weak links of the group. Again, not saying that you're bad or anything like that, but it tends to benefit those players more, because the players that want to be chased want to be chased. They don't want to lose the killer. So that is why it's hard to deal with, because it can make everybody not a weak link. And that's overall my thoughts on Lucky Break. Very good perk. Please don't run it. All right, bye.